All right, man. Something came up the other day, and it stemmed from the recent benching of one Anthony Richardson, the number 4 overall pick a year ago in the draft of the Atlanta Colts, the Indianapolis Colts. And it kind of started with Anthony Richardson tapping out of a game and then getting in front of the media and being probably a little bit too honest. He was talking like it was just you and me. And sometimes honesty is not the best policy. I know the Lord says that thou shalt not lie, but sometimes thou shalt not tell the exact truth. And this might have been the one time for Anthony Richardson where the Lord would have forgiven that lie. When Anthony Richardson tapped out and he got to the podium and they asked him what happened when he tapped out, and he basically just said, well, I'm going to be honest with you, I was tired. And that set off alarms in the NFL community, both national and locally. Former and present players talked about him saying that he got tired at the quarterback position and how that is a stain from the quarterback position. And how can you lead this team when you tap out in the game simply because you're tired? And it's almost this unwritten rule or law or thing that in football, if you are a lineman or you're a quarterback, you don't get to tap out because you're tired. You just don't. Linemen don't get a chance to look over and be like, hey, I know this is play 47, but I'm tired. Now, if you're hurt, if you got the wind knocked out of you, if you got bubble guts, all those other things, get out the game and come back in. But just to simply say you were tired, unacceptable. Well, from that, Anthony Richardson has been benched. And Shane Steichen has decided that he's going to go with the grizzled vet, Joe Flacco, for the remainder of the season, or at least going forward. And then it got the conversation started and got me to thinking, because over the last couple months, you've seen the quarterback position specifically take a major hit. Anthony Richardson benched. Bryce Young, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, benched. Who else was benched, Tay? There's one more quarterback that was benched. We've seen Zach Wilson benched. We've seen Justin Fields in his time is benched. We've seen, there's one more I'm missing, but you get my drift. And there is a development issue. Mac Jones. There we go. I was thinking New England. I couldn't think of Mac Jones. Mac Jones benched. And when you sit back and you ask yourself, there is a development problem. I do. I believe. I think so. One, college football from a quarterback position is not preparing these kids for the NFL. They just aren't. And here is the argument. Because if I'm a college coach, is it my job to prepare this kid for the NFL, or is it my job to win football games at the collegiate level by however that means at the collegiate level? Right? Like, I guess, do you want to produce an NFL quarterback? Sure, right? You want the best for the kid, but does that mean that what I want to run as a system is compromised? Because a lot of these college offenses aren't NFL pro-style offenses. Even from the language, right? A lot of times you look on the sideline and they're still doing the signs. And you'll see them come to the line of scrimmage and they'll clap. And then they'll look to the sideline. And then the coach will give them some sort of hand signal. And then that's the play. And then they get to the league and the coach goes, you got to call a play that's this long. And in that play, you give the formation, you give the protection, you give the motions, you give everybody's assignment, and then you give what they're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times in college, it's a one read. It's, hey, we're doing Elbow means everything. So I'll just say, hey, strong right, elbow, and that tells everybody what they're doing in elbow. Well, that's not the language that happens in the league. But even in elbow in college, it's telling you right now, hey, elbow, throw over here. And so these quarterbacks are getting into the league, and now they're having to take this major learning shift and this learning curve from what they learned in college and the thing that they learned in college, the one word systems, to now it being a multi-word system. And you're dealing with grown men who have families and baby mamas and side pieces and girlfriends are like, hey, young fella, get this right. And then you're dealing with sophisticated defenses that are disguising late, and they're confusing you. And then now you're asking a head coach. See, the days of drafting a quarterback, sitting him for a year or two are dead. Mainly because, and this starts at ownership. Ownership are hiring these general managers and these head coaches and saying, you got to go and win right now. So if I draft a quarterback, he doesn't have time to sit and learn and how to become a professional NFL quarterback. He's thrown into the fire. And then now when that doesn't work after a year and a half, you've now fired the general manager and the head coach. All right, now here comes a new general manager and a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. And that changes the philosophy. Well, hell, he didn't even get down the last philosophy that he had. And you put in a new quarterback coach and a new offensive coordinator and a new head coach who has different variations of what they want to run. And now this kid had to spin it again. And then if it doesn't work in 2 years, you're firing everybody again. And this kid's still on his rookie deal. So now he's getting to the 4th or 5th year of his rookie deal, and he's been on two head coaches, 2 general managers, 3 offensive coordinators, and a team that has not been built around him securely. So if you ask yourself the question, hell yeah, the NFL has a development problem, especially at the quarterback position. Because the days of you giving those guys time to learn this position and watch a veteran go out there and do it, call the plays, understand down and distance, understand tempo, understand how to run a 2-minute, how to run a 4-minute, understand how, different sides of the field, how to call an audible, how to do it, all these things. And you're asking them to do it right now. If we're being completely honest, with a generation of kids who might have the shortest attention span ever. If we're being honest. Now, I'm not here to diagnose anybody with anything, but we got more kids with ADHD, ADHD, PS, all types of stuff. PTDS, you name it, they need Adderall. They need Ritalin. We got more kids that have the dyslexia, that have learning disabilities than we've ever had. Kids can't sit there in a room without having to have fiddlesticks and wheelie things and all that kind of stuff. I'm not making fun of anybody who has those things. I'm saying that, talking about development. We are raising and these kids are playing the game of football. Not calling them done at all, but I'm just telling you that you don't even have kids nowadays who can sit in high school and college classrooms without really being able to not have medicine or some sort of learning disability. And so if you're not giving them time to learn the position and properly understand to sit behind a guy for a year or two, but throwing them out there, for every CJ Stroud, you're going to have a Bo Nix who ain't quite got it. You're going to have a Bryce Young who ain't quite got it. You're going to have Anthony Richardson who ain't quite got it. See, Peyton Manning and them, they had years to develop. Remember, Peyton Manning was terrible. He had time. Tom Brady had to sit behind some guys. Troy Aikman, he was 1-15. That was after they got him after that. He was 3-13. But his coach had time to develop. They put talent around them. They allow that thing to grow. If you're not giving these quarterbacks really a time to grow and they've been through 3 and 4, look at what happened to a guy like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got the hell out of New York, bounced around a couple times, and got somewhere where he actually can sit down and have some stability. Turn the kid's career around. Turn the kid's career around. Look at Jared Goff. Got with some good quarterback, some good coaching. Had a run at the Super Bowl with the Rams, and now has turned the Detroit Lions into a Super Bowl contending team. Geno Smith playing high-level football. You got to give these guys, you got to get these guys somewhere in a good, stable environment, especially when they're rookies. If they're in a chaotic situation and it's crazy turnover and there's no success and there's a bad locker room and the development is done. And then you have the Cleveland Browns cycle. You have that cycle. They just cannot get a quarterback. You have what's happening in Jacksonville where they just cannot get it right. With a quarterback, I think is talented. I think if you put Trevor Lawrence somewhere, you put Trevor Lawrence right now in with the Rams. That may happen. They may trade for him. I don't know. You know the Rams say F these picks. They don't say F these picks. It may work for you. But there is a developmental problem, especially at the quarterback position in the National Football League. The days of having time for a young kid to develop and be a franchise quarterback is dead. And I get it. You pay these guys a lot of money, and you want them to perform right now. But you know, if you want to do a study, Netflix, Hulu, whoever, take the Detroit Lions and how they were patient. Brad Holmes, the GM, and the Ford family said, hey, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a little bit of time. We're going to let you come in here and change the culture. Implement your culture into this. We're not going to have a quick trigger. We're going to give you the resources. And in a couple years, when Dan Campbell got to Detroit, that first year wasn't good. Everyone laughed about the kneecaps and all that kind of stuff. And slowly but surely, they just keep putting down bricks. Trade happened, and they just started drafting right and started putting things in place. Boom, 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 boom. Culture was built. Now, Motor City Dan Campbell got that thing rolling. Arguably has one of the best offenses in the league. His quarterback is in the MVP conversation. Detroit, since hell, I can't even remember the last time Detroit was truly a Super Bowl contender. Truly a Super Bowl contender. And honestly, when you look at the way that this thing is happening in the NFC, I mean, they will be the favorite right now in the NFC. They will be the favorite. Now, they might have to go face, Kansas City or Baltimore, in the Super Bowl or whatever. But right now, San Fran's down. The Vikings, interesting. A couple other teams that may be interesting, but Green Bay may be a little interesting. But right now, it's Detroit versus everybody. And that's because that organization allowed development to truly happen. They allowed culture to truly happen. They allowed consistency to truly happen. They allowed foundations to be built and bricks to be built on top of it so that they would have a strong, strong base. And now people are looking at Detroit in a totally different light than they did 4 years ago. So if NFL teams want to look at how to build, look at Detroit. Look at Detroit. They're making all the right moves, and they're putting themselves in a position in in a position to win.